Welcome to Overcoming Barriers to Integrating ICT. My name is Michael and I'm your course facilitator. Integrating ICT into early childhood education is a very important aspect of education today. As we know, children today are being exposed more and more to technology as more and new and emerging technology comes into society. This exposure to ICT cannot be disregarded anymore by early childhood teachers. The education of ICT capability in early childhood education is an aspect that needs to be tackled head-on, as it helps to lay the foundations to the progression of child ICT capability throughout not only their schooling career but throughout their life. However, despite all the good knowledge that many of us have about ICT integration, there are still barriers that are preventing us from conducting this process. And in this session, we're going to look at what some of those are and how you can overcome those. But before we begin, let us first have a little bit of background information into what we need to know. To begin with, let's look at what ICT integration is. And you might already know that introducing ICT into schools by itself will not lead to enhanced learning, nor will be devolving responsibility to the technology, do the same thing. You also know that there are ways that you can implement ICT integration quite effectively and improve student learning. Whatever the case, the process of integrating ICT into early childhood education is not straightforward. For you as an early childhood teacher, it means imagining the potential of the available technologies for the learning in which it will take place. ICT integration involves and is concerned about the here and the now of the available technology and not waiting for the next big technological development to come around and to somehow solve your problems of integrating ICT. And this leads me to two aspects of integrating ICT: intended and intentional learning. Now, intended and incidental learning. So what we're talking about here is when children have used ICT for longer periods of time for the work, and this is what recent studies and research has found. When they do this, when they use it for extended periods of time, this is what is known as incidental learning, because they get involved in the language, they learn things from the people, from the technologies, from the systems itself. That's what is known as incidental learning, when we learn things from the people and from the other aspects of life around us. Intended learning, of course, comes from, and is related directly to learning from the curriculum. So what does it mean for integrating ICT? Well, it means that effective teaching and learning with ICT needs to, you need to be able to find ways of building bridges between the incidental and the intended learning. And you must work with the whole class to share, challenge, and to confront knowledge building. So what is holding you back? Well, earlier I discussed briefly that despite the good knowledge that many of us teachers have about integrating ICT and the benefits that it has on children's learning, there is always something that is putting us up barriers that is preventing teachers from taking part in the process. So let us now look at some of those and keep listening to be able to learn how you can overcome some of those. The first one is affordability. Now, cost is a significant issue. If for any school, for any childhood centre, if you're not privately funded, if you're community based, if you don't simply just have the funds, cost is an issue. But there are ways you can overcome this. And this will bring me back to what I was saying about integrating ICT. What does it actually mean? Can you recall what I said about integrating ICT? It's to do with the here and the now, the available technologies. So firstly, let me begin by saying that you can ask for donations from the parents and the carers of the children to bring in donations of old working technologies. So it could be old laptops, mobile phones, digital cameras that they no longer use but is still working. You could also ask them for donations of non-working technologies, anything that doesn't work. They don't need to be working, for children to learn and develop their ICT capability. Even non-working technologies is great because play is an important part of early childhood education, and just having non-working technologies is a great way. You can sit there with them and can still go through the various concepts, high order skills, processes that are involved. Then, not only that, you can also ask the community for that as well, for donations for those items. Then we cannot also disregard toy technologies. Toy technologies is also a great part. Toy laptops, mobile phones, computers, any technologies, that is, a toy that children can play with, also great. So those are just three options. Secondly, all right, let's come to the scenario where you might have the technologies available there, but there's always problems, always issues with technologies. Let's go through some of them. Power outage. You can't use the technologies. Lack of technical support. Big issue. Okay. What do you do? It comes down to being able to know how to effectively teach ICT capability. You need to know how to teach the concepts, how to teach the higher order skills, how to teach the processes involved. Because ICT capability is not just about knowing, ICT techniques. It's about those as well. And in fact, 5 components of ICT capability, which you'll learn in the course. So let's go through a couple of areas. If that happens, then you can gather the whole class around in front of you as a whole class discussion, and you can then teach through whole class the concepts and higher order skills using key focus questions. Secondly, group discussions is a great way to be able to work through the processes of using ICT. Even young children, they might surprise you and be as tech savvy as they are, and work through what processes are, what are the steps that are involved, what do you have to do, and go through them one by one. Now then there is your part. You need to model how to plan, how to evaluate, and how to hypothesize things as well in terms of ICT use. Lack of appropriate resources is another one too, and this also comes down to the availability. Okay, you can't get it when you want it. You can't find it. Those sort of areas. But not surprisingly, the most of what I discussed just then comes down to what I have, that you can apply right here as well. You can use, non-working, working, and toy technologies to do that. There's so much unused technologies around. Simply putting out the call for donations, parents and carers and the community, I'm sure, will come to your aid. You don't have to rely on big technologies, new technologies come around. Great, when you have the funds, source them. But that also imposes other issues upon you, and we'll look at that in a second as well. Lack of time to learn and practice is also another big issue. And true, being a teacher myself, I know that the time is a valuable commodity. When it comes to using ICT in the classroom, you need time to learn about it. To know about it in the first place, to learn of it, to be able to practice it, to be able to reflect on it, on its use, to be able to evaluate its use. So where do we fit that in? How can you overcome that issue? And of course, with new technologies, if you want to bring in new technologies, that is also, an important part of this. Where do you find the time to learn that? You got to go to PDs, you got to do this, you got to do that. So despite this, there are ways to overcome this hurdle too. It comes down to your knowledge of ICT resources. And when using ICT in early childhood learning environments, it's best that you focus on one, maybe two programs that you and your children use, and become familiar with them. Learn to become familiar with them, to know how to exploit the features and the functions of that program in the learning context in which it will be taught. And that's all you need to do. Okay, so by doing that, it takes away that burden of being able to find the time to learn about new things. Why not focus on what you have there, on what you already have in your environment, and find ways to actually exploit those features and functions. This will help you by identifying the circumstances when children are ready to move on to new features and functions. Or, you might want to, use the software for a more demanding purpose. It is also important for you to be knowledgeable about one program than it is to be acquainted with many programs. It is better for the children to work with a small number of versatile programs and to progressively develop their ICT capability in these through carefully structured ICT activities than it is to try and learn a large number of them superficially. Lack of confidence and lack of PD, of course, are intrinsically linked together. If teachers don't get the opportunities to attend PDs in ICT, then their confidence declines. They're not so confident, they're not so competent in using that. What you need to do is find an accredited online course. Now, I say accredited because particularly in Australia, accredited means that you are assured of teacher quality content. And this means that if you teach in Australia, that it is aligned with the Australian professional standards for teachers. It's very important that they are. Secondly, it also plays into your TPAC needs as well as a teacher. Online courses are ideal for teachers in any sector, whether it be early childhood, primary or secondary, because you can apply the theory that you've learnt as you go. That is why many online courses have the logo, learn as you go, because it gives you the opportunity to be able to do that. You don't have to go to a face-to-face workshop, go back and keep going through and going through multiple workshops to do so. Online courses, you go at your own pace, and many of them offer self-paced timing of modules, such as this one here. So you can go through at your own pace, apply the theory as you learn. So learn as you go. One final thing is that it will save you money. Face-to-face workshops don't offer that opportunity, to the extent of which online courses do. With face-to-face, there is additional costs like travel at times. Sometimes it might be accommodation cost, there'll be fuel cost, there'll be workshop costs, there'll be resources costs. All those are foregone with online courses. So, you save time, you save money, you build your confidence, and you build your confidence and your competence in ICT integration, and you overcome all these hurdles through enrolling in accredited online courses. Well, that concludes this session on overcoming barriers to ICT integration, and I hope you've learned from it and will apply these to your own early childhood centres or schools. And I look forward to seeing you in the next session.